Today we want to get the clear coating on the side scoops of the MT09. The back masking on this I removed very carefully. It's very delicate at this point. And we waited through a good part of the day for the weather to warm up. It eventually warmed up enough that we could get the clear on. And by day's end, we had all the clear sitting in the garage and just waiting for it to dry overnight. Tomorrow we'll take the parts out, hopefully buff them, get them up by a heating gun for 3 or 4 hours, have an extra cup of coffee, and get out the 4CR and get these parts buffed and reinstalled on a motorcycle. Now I get out to the garage this morning, flip the battery tenders, and it is cold again, but a difference from yesterday. Today is supposed to go above freezing by about 1 o'clock, so we're going to get the parts ready for the clear, and this afternoon get the clear on those side scoops on the MT09. Hopefully get that in the garage to dry. That'll be a big step. But yesterday we had a wonderful visit up by Luciano's. It's on yesterday's video for anybody who might have missed it, or if you don't follow the channel. We post something up every day, and at the end of it I put a lot of our track day little memories that we have and some memories of Bob Navola. Now, because the weather's been so unpredictable and so cold, I've really had a plan every day, and I kind of like it that way, to be honest. I don't like these Groundhog Day situations. But today, I know it's going to warm up, and another benefit, it's nice and bright and sunny, which always makes painting just a little bit nicer anyway. And we got a couple of things we have to do around the house. I got to chop the ice. The usual, as Karen would say, round up the usual suspects. This is just the kind of work you need to get you in the mood to get inside the house. It's a lot colder out here than you think it is. This is definitely not the best part of my day. Well, it's a lot of work and a lot of maintenance for this pond, but we really do enjoy it about 9 months of the year. And I want to share some good information. Because we were at Luciano's yesterday, that tape that's on the side scoops, what happened, it stayed on overnight, but it's under a heating vent and it's warm. Now, I learned a valuable lesson during the time I was a modeler, and it was this kind of a day, just like today, and I had put one of the models with tape on it, all the back masking, out in the garage. And it got unexpectedly cold overnight, and I pulled up every bit of paint with that tape. When you leave tape, anybody's pulled up tape knows, when tape gets cold overnight, even cold period, it's not your friend. So here's my suggestion. Before we even work on those parts, I'm going to put them right under a heating vent as close as possible. Get that tape as warm as possible, because I don't want to have even the slightest flaw. And these side scoops are a big part of the MT09. They're one of the defining features. And as soon as those scoops are done, it's going to be time to pull the wheels. And the new coffee maker has worked out just perfectly. We were getting so used to having cool coffee. The carafe really does keep it hot. You put hot water in it before you make coffee, warm it up, it stays good till late in the afternoon. So you guys going to come help me paint? Hey. I had to go to the car wash yesterday because of you guys. It's all your fault. Now these parts have been sitting underneath the heating vent, but just to be sure, I'm going to put them right up as close to the heating vent as I can get them before I take the back masking off. That believe me, that's a good tip. Never put anything with tape on it out in the cold where it's going to freeze. Boy, when you do that, you could be learning a lesson I learned years ago. And the lesson is, don't do that. And now, some of the tape I've used, especially the stuff that's tan, when that gets cold, boy, does that get unbelievably sticky. And this, I just washed my hands with that stuff that degreases them. And I want to be real careful not to get these parts, get fingerprints on them or anything. And then I'll be very patient, wait till it comes above freezing, and get the clear on. This is one of the focal points of the motorcycle. And that heat this time of year almost never shuts off, so we have our own forced drying system here. Now, even though these parts have been up by the heating vent and they're warm, I want to make sure they're super warm. I'm hoping I can get this whole thing done without any tape problems. If that's the case, we'll have the clear on this and it'll be drying tonight. It'll be really nice. And this is the kind of thing where at this point in time, you're always tempted to just rip everything off. I'm going to take this, all the back masking off as carefully as possible. I don't want to scuff anything up. I'm going to just do this very carefully. Some of the hard lessons to learn when you're removing back masking, especially if you have light colors, you don't want to grind the tinfoil into the paint. You don't want to have dirty hands. If you just got done doing an oil change, might not be the best time to do this. And I clean my hands with this degreasing soap that I have in a laundry room. And if you don't have that, dish soap will do just fine too. And very, very carefully picking up the corners of the tape. I don't want to have any repairs that I don't have to have on this. I'd like to get this clear on perfectly today. Now, many times I'd be in a rush for whatever reason, and it never paid. It was just, you learn that lesson once, and I think you only have to learn it, and you're done learning it, hopefully. At least I am anyway. And I like to look at these parts. I have incandescent lights. I have fluorescent lights in different parts of the shop. I want to look at them. I want to look for anything I want to touch up. Now, in this case, these were pretty flawless. But if I had something I wanted to touch up, a scratch or fingerprint, someplace where the paint wasn't laying down right, this is the time to do it, because once you seal it and clear, you're pretty much married to it, in my case, forever. So here's another really, really good tip on this whole thing. In the past, I have tried to do all kind of fancy stuff, wipe this down with M600 or something. The trick is now, and it's a really good trick, I want to take these parts out and put on, I'm trying not to even touch it with my bare hands. I want to put on a very dry coat, almost like you would with an airbrush, without touching this. I don't have any fingerprints, any scratches so far. Get that on, I'll let it dry, and then I'll come back half hour, 45 minutes later, put a wet coat on, and then put it out in the garage to dry it. Right now, this is a very delicate thing. It's very easy if you try to shave these edges down. They're very thin. And anything metallic, and both of these have metallic and pearl, no matter how you touch that, even trying with your fingernail, it's going to leave a mark in the silver and in the purple blue. So just going to mix the clear up and get that first dry coat on. And the temperature's up above freezing. It is really going to be a good day. Plenty of sun out there. Get the clear on. But that first coat, I want it to be dry. And this is the clear that we're going to use. Fast urethane activator. And those are the numbers. And thank you, Joe Padula, for sharing this with us. And of course, you can buy this right off the internet. And we've had really good luck using this on many, many projects. Now, the objective here is to get the material put on in thin coats. The worst thing you can do with a part like this is to blow on a big wet coat, get a run in it, have other problems with it. I've been real lucky with doing this, of just having, I just call it an airbrush for lack of a better word, and letting it dry roughly 15-20 minutes, even a half an hour between coats. You can't overdo that. But having the very thin coats and go back and forth over and over and over, what happens is the paint seems to lay down better. And in the end, you wind up with a lot less problems with it. And don't ask me why. It doesn't seem to pick up as much dust, because probably when you spray it dry, it's less tacky and tends to pick up less of the dust. I like to look at it in the garage, keep the garage door shut, minimize the amount of dust that might get in there. Because in the beginning, that first coat now, that's basically like flypaper now. Now, I wanted to get 2 coats on everything. A lot of times I'll need 3 coats. I won't know until I'm all done tomorrow and this paint is cured out if those letters are totally buried. Now, if they're not, I'll just sand the part. Now, it could be, and I often think maybe this is the case, that if you use more expensive spray equipment, you can bypass some of these little things. But that's not the point. The point is, I don't want to invest $1,000 in a spray gun when I can do the same thing with I can do it with a $10 gun from Harbor Freight, a $12 gun. And if you have the money, of course, it's great. But to me, it just doesn't seem necessary. And in the end, we're going to buff the parts out anyway. But it is nice to minimize the amount of little dust and little defects that you have to sand out. Just make it a little more enjoyable to finish up the part tomorrow. Well, this day played out pretty good, and we got the clear on here. It's going to sit in the garage overnight, and early in the morning I'll run up, put it by heating vent. Maybe we can buff it out tomorrow, or it may need more clear. Now sometimes when you have lettering or you have tape edges or whatnot, you really do have to sand it and put a final coat of clear on. I don't know until we put this together how it's going to work out, but well, all I know is it's going to really look nice. I can't wait to get these parts buffed out and put back on the bike. And every day I'm working on this MT09 and adding something blue where there used to be something flat black, or these crazy logos that they had that were reversed. It just couldn't make me happier. This is going to be the part that really ultimately defines the bike when we get the wheels painted silver. And again, we're going to start that very soon, and we're going to post up what happens with that project every day. Before we're done for the day here, I thought I'd share something that I think is a great memory from 2014. And our parts are drying outside beautifully, and I came back down to the computer and I said, you know, haven't revisited this in quite a long time. And what this is a really, I would guess this is an impossible to find, not a hard to find, Yamaha fuel tank. We did this job for Malcolm, Ray's friend Malcolm, in 2014. And I remember when he brought the tank down, Ray hand delivered this tank. I remember thinking, wow, is this thing in rough shape? Holy mackerel, this is going to be a lot of work. I had no idea. In fact, back then, even the gas cap needed work. The petcock, you can see the rust on the fuel filter. This was just a really bad shaped tank. But because you can't just go buy these in the store, it gives you a little more incentive to try to see what we can come up with and can we bring this back to life. So back in 2014, I just made a commitment to myself that I wanted to see this live again. And because back in the day when I was in Amar and raced my RDs, I saw these bikes that had the really, these are the factory aluminum tanks, and they were pretty much, back in the day, you could just go get one. Well, the problem is you can't get it anymore. That you're dreaming if you think you can just dial up on eBay and get one of these for $50. Not happening. So I had to make the decision, and this is the part of the story that I always think is important, to do all the Bondo work, all the priming, all the dent removal, all of this work. Now, you really don't see it, but it becomes a total labor of love. There's no flat areas on this. There's nothing where you could lay a ruler on it. Everything has a very slight curve, a very little bit of an angle, corners. It's a beautifully made tank, except it was in rough shape. And it probably is 50 years old for all I know, maybe even more, 40 years old. But I made that decision, and I remember this well. And it was in the middle of the snowiest, coldest winter. Oh, it's just brutal. Outside, you had to freeze every time you had to go outside to do something. But between the primer and the filler coats, and little by little by little, this tank started to take shape. And if you've ever watched, the TV shows like Bitchin' Rides, where they bring these old cars back to life, the body work, you can't even imagine how many hours go into this. And when you want it perfect, you just double that. So looking back at this, I'm glad I took these pictures when I did. Again, on my computer, I have literally, I'll bet I have thousands of pictures that I haven't even looked at in 10, 15 years. I've got to go through them because they make interesting things to share with the people that are new to the channel, or maybe just haven't seen the video on doing this tank restoration. And we've done a lot of them. This is not the only one. So looking back at this, and as I think about it, because my parts are out in the garage drying, and Luciano, we're going to be doing a tank for him, the Kawasaki. And in the middle of all of this stuff, the fact that we've had really cold weather and had a little bit of snow, and really not a total lot of fun being out in the garage, or being outside even. But then when I look back at this and I think of some of the things we've been able to to bring back to life. And this tank for Malcolm was one of them. And I'm very proud of how this came out when it was done. I know Malcolm has a super passion for motorcycles. Malcolm has actually done me some favors, given me exhaust pipes and different RD parts, and he's been a good friend over the years. And of course, he's a really good friend of Ray's. They live down in Florida. And when I put this out for the last time before I buffed it out, and I looked at it and I said, man, I was really happy the way that came out. I was thinking, wow, you know, somewhere in the future, and back in 2014, I had no idea that I'd be riding an MT09 right now. But I kept thinking, boy, that's a job I look back at and I can really be proud of. Now, once these scoops are back on the bike and I can get a good photo shoot, probably the last photo shoot with the blue wheels, what I like to do is I'm going to start the wheels and make a series of videos of doing the wheels. You're not going to do it in just 1 or 2 videos, that's for sure. But we'll make it part 1, part 2, etc., like we've done in the past. And actually, what I always do, I look on my computer, I have all the wheel videos in a separate location, and look at some of the things to remind me of things that I might have forgotten. As an example, that the SOS pads worked real good. Some of these little tools I made and bought years ago were good for getting in these little sanding areas. Some of them were great, and I have a whole bucket full of these tools. We're going to see how many of them are going to be useful, how many are going to be, well, not so useful. And since I don't have the MT09 wheels off the bike yet, I won't get that done till later in the week. Once I get those wheels off the bike and I can start to see where I'm going to have to do the most of the work, and I don't know that powder coating or paint, I don't know which is which. I'm going to try to do that with remover, but I'm not sure that that's even going to work until I actually start it. But if not, then it's going to be grind and sand time, and it absolutely becomes a giant labor of love. And what makes this project, the wheel project, this one especially, real good is we had a spare set of wheels from the spare bike, the track that used to be the track bike. So having a black set with a green stripe, a green set, that it changes the whole look of the bike. And I basically switch them every time I put a new set of tires on. But here we are, and this is fun looking back at this. Years ago when I was younger, riding in these really cold days, and it's great to be down by the computer with a hot cup of coffee looking at the pictures instead of at that lake. So just some memories from the pictures on the computer. Thought you might enjoy that, especially if you're new to the channel. And because we have so many, and I've been so meticulous about saving pictures of, I have projects within projects within projects over the years, and it really is fun looking back and sharing some of the fun, some of the adventures. And it depends. Some of these things that were adventures didn't turn out to be that much fun. But it's the story of our life, and it's the story that through YouTube I'm able to share with you. Remember, we post video every day, and thanks so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.